Welcome back, Smart Start Radio family. Before we get into our latest amazing episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor. With spectacular hotels, amazing theme parks, and unparalleled entertainment, Universal Orlando Resort offers a meeting destination unlike anything else in the world. Welcome back to Smart Start Radio. I am your host, one of two, Eming, Piansay.
And host two of two here is Sara Robertson. I feel very welcome after all of those welcomes.
That's the goal, because this is a very special episode of Smart Start Radio because it is our Smart Women edition.
Yes, it is.
We talked to two former Smart Women winners of Smart Meetings, Cherryl Brazier and Anh Nguyen. They both gave such great insights into what it is to be a woman in the meetings industry and business and starting your own business, and essentially what anyone could really utilize in terms of like helpful tips and tricks, not like tricks, but like experience and how they became who they are. And I think as, anyone, people who have been in the industry a while can obviously use this conversation as just a helpful little like reminder of what you can do no matter where you are in your life.
Mm-hmm. And just see how far you can go.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's start here.
Let's go.
Here you are again listening to Smart Start Radio, and we have a super fun episode coming at you today. We have two absolutely outstanding ladies at the top of their fields. We have Cherryl Brazier, president of Anchor Collection, and Anh Nguyen, principal of Spark Event Management Incorporated. So if you two want to go through and just take turns introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit about your background so our audience can get to know you, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for including me in this today. As you mentioned, Cherryl Brazier, president of Anchor Collection, which is a boutique sales and marketing representation company. And I represent DMCs primarily in Europe and also hotels. Been in the business for a long time. Trained in hotel management, did every job there is to do in a hotel, then went into global sales. And I've been running my own business now for 7 years and loving it.
Wow. That's really cool.
Amazing.
Global representation. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name's Anh Nguyen. As you mentioned, I am the principal of the Spark Event Collective. And so our agency is a full-service event management company that brings together a community of senior independent planners. So we produce virtual, live, hybrid events, mostly corporate and associations. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and Spark has been in existence for about 12. So yeah, been a lifelong entrepreneur and event planner since I graduated from university. And I don't know what other profession I would have done if I didn't fall into this by accident. So nice to be here and chat with you.
Thank you for being here. It's funny, we hear a lot of people say that they sort of fell into this industry by accident. Everyone says, I'm so glad I found it.
Mm-hmm. One of the few that actually trained in hospitality management and stayed in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of
interesting.
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to be in the hospitality industry, but there's a lot of people that did the course, but then, ended up in totally different fields. But our industry is so vast in terms of what you can do.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, one question that we want to ask you both is entering this industry requires like starting from at least a baseline of like learning, because there's so much to understand about how this whole thing works. And so in your experience, how has, the process of learning and helping and evolving and wherever you began and where you are now, how has that helped you guys kind of evolve your life and work?
Yeah, I can take that. So like I mentioned, I fell into this industry by accident. I learned about event planning as a volunteer in university or college, I guess, university in Canada. And I didn't know that you could be an event planner for a living. So I find that lots of how my career has evolved has been a little bit serendipitous, sort of just putting out there what it is that I like doing, volunteering my time for organizations that I found to be worthy. And then the next step sort of appeared, right? So like Cherryl said, it's very vast and people do a lot of different aspects in this industry. And I think the biggest thing is just putting yourself out there and getting involved, whether it's in your local association or your chapter or your church or your community or whatever it is, and just putting it out there that a skill set that you want to develop. And very likely you'll come across someone that can give you a hand or open some doors or make some introductions. And that's kind of how my career has evolved. It doesn't seem as intentional as maybe Cheryl's career might have been. So maybe she has better advice on this. But oftentimes what I found is just I've found a passion or excitement about something and shared that excitement. And our industry is so keen on connecting people to. But that's kind of how it evolved for me over the last, 15 years. When you ask me about how I got whatever job, it's typically because someone already in the industry heard that I was interested in something and then lent a hand or opened a door.
Right.
Cool. That's awesome.
I totally agree that you just have to put it out there sometimes. And that's happened to me twice. When I was working on property in London, I said, I'd really like to move to the US. And then a friend saw a job advertised in Travel Weekly, senior marketing executive, visit Britain, Los Angeles office, and said, hey, look, they're advertising your ideal job. And I looked at it and went, I can do that. And I got it. And that's what brought me over to the States. So sometimes you just have to say, this is what I want to do. And then the next job, when I worked for Thistle Hotels, I was talking to a friend in London and said, I really want to stay out here, but I'd love to get back to the hotel side and I'd love to have something that's still connected back to UK. And then somebody called me and said, hey, look, we're looking for a global salesperson to represent the UK hotel. So just putting it out there that this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't really aware of the global sales role, I think, before that. I think when you're on property, working at a hotel or on the event side, there's so much scope. It can be anything from an interior designer, an architect, a lawyer.
Right.
There's so many different facets within our industry, and you can interchange.
Yeah.
I mean, I started on the hotel side, went to the DMO side, went back to the hotel side, and now back on the DMC side. So it's very easy to interchange between them once you have a passion for our industry.
It's really interesting how wide-ranging this industry is and like how many different types of roles that there are. And a lot of people, like you're saying, move between very different roles, whether you're in hotels, DMOs, event planning itself. So I'm curious, as you've moved through these many different roles, what kinds of skills do you find that you sort of were developing in the beginning of your career that have propelled you towards where you are now? And to tack on to that, a lot of our listeners are people who are in the process of career building. And, what kinds of skills do you think create that forward momentum? And how do people identify them as they're sort of building their careers? And how do they know which ones to really cultivate?
I think in our industry, any kind of management skills, managing a group of people, being able to delegate within a group of people, it doesn't matter what side of the business you're on, building trust with those people as well, and quickly, and building rapport with people very quickly. Because I think if you're on the hotel side or the event side, you're always in different teams and bringing different teams together and looking at what people's strengths and weaknesses are. So I think by like Anne said, but volunteering in our industry organizations, whether it's MPI or SITE or PCMA, and just learning those roles of managing a team and project management, and learning once you get to a higher role within it, delegating to people and trusting them to do that job and to be able to support you are so vital, I think, because it is a people industry at the end of the day, and going in and building rapport with people very quickly and building trust with people to get the best result that you need, whether it's an event or sales team or whatever it is. So anything, and that can, like you say, it can be within a church, it can be in a sport at the end of the day, but just getting that kind of well-roundedness in terms of management, people skills, I think is vital.
Yeah, it different from other industries. Like you can't go out and practice law as a volunteer for an organization and just say, I'm going to volunteer practice as a lawyer, right? Like they have certain standards and technicalities that they got to learn. But for us, it's good and bad. We don't have the same sort of barriers to entry where if you want to offer to organize something for your community league or your soccer team or your church or whatever, there's lots of opportunities to do that. And I think Cheryl's right that you have to practice that somewhere, because you don't just assume and get a management role right off the start, but you have to have those skills. And I mean, event planning is so cool because it's half science, half art, right? So understanding the technicalities of it, being detail-oriented, investing time in learning the trade, while also looking for opportunities to exercise that sort of the more the soft skills. But that perfect combination of the two is kind of what I've seen make people most successful in this industry, especially if you want to get into the event production planning side where lots of details, lots of managing of teams and like that. So I guess if you're starting out, look for opportunities where you can, donate some of that time and in exchange build some expertise.
Yeah.
And I think our industry associations offer really good training in terms of the technical side, whether it's a PCMI or an MPI or depending on what you're doing. I think it's always look out for those opportunities to be able to upskill in so many different areas and have that variety of expertise that you can call on when you need it.
I'm curious, like Cherryl, you always knew that this is what you wanted to do, but Anne, you sort of fell into it. How did you know that it was right for you?
I think that, I'm of the belief that there could be lots of different professions or careers that would be a fit for you. There's not, it's not like your soulmate or there's one job out there. I think work that makes you feel fulfilled, but challenges you and continues to push you to grow. That was what I was looking for, right? There's lots of professions where you can go in and on day one, you're doing relatively similar things to the last day of your career. This isn't one of those professions. And sometimes that's not great. Sometimes you want that predictability and that stability, and that, event industry is not that. But I find a lot of fulfillment from it. And back to the volunteering piece, I would do it for free, right? I would do it for free for people I enjoyed doing it for, at the time, the Students' Union. And I just sort of said, if I'm willing to do this for free and someone's willing to pay me, that's even better, right? So every career, every profession that you go in is going to have great days and it's going to have crappy days, and some days you'll wish that you had picked something else. But at the end of the day, for me, it's about a role where I can continue to grow and evolve my skills. And I just love sort of seeing the creation of what you do when you build an event. So that type of fulfillment is hard to find for some people, but once you find it, you sort of know, and you just don't leave. You don't leave. They can't get rid of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think...
What about you, Cherryl?
I think with training, I started as like a trainee junior assistant manager in a hotel, like the bottom of the ladder. And then you're working really long hours for very little money. And I think at that stage, you have to love it. Otherwise, you're not going to last. But you get, like Anne said, you get a certain amount of fulfillment of, particularly when you're working on the meeting and event side, from seeing a fruition of an idea come to fruition and actually seeing the successful completion of an event is very fulfilling. And I think I knew I was never going to be somebody that was just going to sit behind a desk 9 to 5. That just isn't my personality. And now I'm in a position where I think, I'm a connector naturally. It's what I do, whether I'm doing my job or out personally. I love connecting people. And now being able to do that and making my living and getting paid for connecting people is kind of the ideal scenario, right? And I get energized by being around people. I mean, my worst nightmare would be sitting in an office 9 to 5 in front of a screen.
So one thing that we discuss a lot at Smart Meetings is the concept of like after we were all locked down for a very long time because of COVID, a lot of folks left the industry and a lot of new people came to the industry. So one thing we really wanted to talk about was like, what can this new batch essentially learn from you guys or you would like to impart on them to like help them like better assess like, how can I move forward? How can I climb? How can I, what can I do that I don't know how to do essentially?
I actually have an additional question I want to tack on to that. It's like a part B, but it's interesting. I think we talk a lot about a person's first job and then the job that they're in now, but what's in between?
There's a lot of stepping stones in between, that's for sure. I mentor with Sight, and I think I'm on my 3rd mentee now. And I think that's a great avenue when you're starting in our industry. And a lot of our associations have young leader programs that you can use the expertise of people that have been in the industry a long time to help you and lift you up into those positions where you need it. That we've been doing it for a number of years and we have those connections, but we can help the people that are just starting out. Get connected either officially or unofficially with somebody that can mentor you in the industry. And don't be afraid to ask and say, would you help me with this? Would you be a mentor for me? There's a lot of people that we just really want to help the people coming in to have the same experience that we've had enjoying our industry. So anybody that wants to come in, we want to foster that love for the meetings and events industry. We want them to stay and we want them to grow and we want them to move on. And I think it is a case of looking at stepping stones. So your next job might not be the ideal one, but it might be a stepping stone to get you to where you want to be. And if it looks good on your resume and gets you some additional experience to get you where you want to be, that's fine. It doesn't, you don't always go from A to B. It might be an A point, whatever. It's a path that you take, but you can't always predict it when you start out, and you have to gain the experience along the way.
Right.
I'm feeling quite old based on these questions. What wisdom?
You're not alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cheryl's nailed it, right? Like if I were to look back on my career path, and I even actually am in shock when I say 20 years because it feels like a long time, but I didn't know. When I started out in this industry, I was like, I don't think entrepreneurship and business ownership is for me, right? You don't know kind of what you don't know. And I think if you have kind of a path, sure, map it out and hang on to it as a guide, but only use it as that, right? It will certainly change, things like COVID happen, things like layoffs happen, things like, unexpected opportunities will show up. And I think if you're open to taking some chances and open to going along for a ride that might not necessarily fit on your path, it will always lead you to a spot where you either know you're in the right place or not, right? And then you can just change it. I think the generation that's coming up even after us is so different from the generation before us that was like, I need to find a job and I need to work there for 35 years and then retire. They're a lot more fluid and flexible and open to different opportunities arising and different contracts and structures of working that we can actually learn a lot from them about how fluid they are. And to Cheryl's point, like there's always people who are looking to impart their wisdom or mentor people.
Right.
Finding someone that's in a position that you want to eventually be in or is doing something that you want to do and just asking them some questions about how they got there. 9 times out of 10, those folks, Cherryl and myself included, are willing to sit down for a half-hour call or make an introduction to someone or share something that we've learned. But you'd be surprised how little we get asked to that, right? People are worried about making that outreach, and I don't think you should be.
That's a great piece of advice. One of the things we were thinking about as we were prepping for this discussion is what you brought up, actually, Anne, is this concept of job hopping, which is, something that we're seeing among younger generations, like as Gen Z is entering the workforce and like they're staying in jobs for like 1 to 3 years before moving on to another one and then another one and like kind of gaining these skills and bits of skills and insights at each one, like building that resume in order to like sort of curate their resume for the job that they do want. So I'm curious, are you guys seeing this in the meetings industry? And what are your thoughts about it when we think about career building and how people are building their careers these days?
You want to take that first, Anne?
Sure, yeah. I mean, our model is completely based on the gig economy and people doing that, right? I think COVID really showed people that there's more to life than work, especially people of older generations that were taught to, go and get a job and work 9 to 5 and put in your hours and retire at the end of it. It kind of flipped that all on its head, right? That there's a lot more to life than work. And it's not crazy to think that people want jobs and careers that fit around their life, not for me to fit into this systemic box that was created hundreds of years ago by a man. So yeah, like I think we're seeing a lot of demand for more flexible work, more, you would call it transient, but it's not transient. It's just where it fits into where I am in my cycle in life. And the organizations that are trying to stick people to come to the office and punch in your time clock and, work 40 hours a week. And I think that those days are numbered, and especially, and not just among young people. I would say not just among young people. I'm seeing a lot of demand for that in senior planners too, who are on the other side of their career where they are looking for some more flexibility. I think that's a great trend, and I think it's coming, or it's here.
Very interesting.
I think in order to move up sometimes, I was talking to a planner in New York last week, and she was saying that, on the event manager side, there might be like 40 positions, but the VP level, there might only be 4. So if you want to move up, the opportunity to do that is often not going to be within your company unless you're going to sit and wait it out. So you have to move.
Right.
And I think sometimes that is the case, that sometimes, the positions, say, within one hotel or one company are more limited to get to that senior level. Whereas if you can leave, get some experience, and then even maybe sometimes come back to the same company, but at a more elevated position, that, I think having 18 months or 2 years or something that's the way our industry is. And it's not something that's frowned upon. It's, it's showing you've got the momentum that you want to move forward and you want to succeed. And that's what you're going to do to get it.
Right.
But I also agree with that. I mean, I've worked from home for 20 years. I can't, because I was working for companies that were in UK. They didn't have an office here. So I've, even before COVID, I was like, I've had a home office set up and I love it. I couldn't see myself going back to an office now. But the people, my team is all freelance. Social media, marketing, bookkeeping, everybody's freelance. And it's great to have that flexibility and add people in as I need them, depending on what I'm working on. So I'm a big proponent as well as, you need to work in the way that works for you. And like Anne was saying, some people are towards the end of their career, but maybe they need elderly parents they need to look after. Maybe they need to be at home. They might need to move somewhere else. So having that flexibility, I think, is key to being able to enjoy your life at all stages.
Since you both are like, you've risen up the ranks, you've become the top of the heap in the industry, but it's true. But one thing we've talked about here at Smart Meetings is that women don't often get put in those like C-suite positions. And so we've always kind of wondered, like, how can we improve that? Like, there's so many of us in this industry. Like, last week I was there and there was mostly women. How can the industry kind of support that? Like, how can this industry improve that and allow women to kind of be their best selves in areas that can change the way things are happening, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, like, the industry is female dominated. We know that. But the C-suite is male dominated. So I don't think that it's a huge leap to say that there is some kind of gender disparity here.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to give kudos to something like to Smart Meetings for promoting and recognizing women through the Smart Meetings, organized Smart Women, Smart Meetings. That's a huge move in recognizing the leadership and the women in our industry and giving kudos to the work that they've done. And there are more organizations now that really are taking that on board. Personally, I think the difference is if a woman was going to go into a senior position, we would look at it and would want to check all the boxes before we applied for the position. We'd be like, oh, I'm not qualified, right? We look at it and go, I'm not qualified. A guy will look at the position and might only have 2 out of 10 and would apply for it anyway.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
There's a lot of people who are in the positions that are probably not qualified for, and you look at it and go, well, I could have done that job better than he did. But we hold ourselves back sometimes,
right?
Because we want to check all those boxes. Okay, I'm not going to get political. But there's a lot of people in leadership positions that shouldn't be in leadership positions. I'm just going to say that. And I think we just need to go for it. And it doesn't matter if you get rejected from it. Just put yourself forward and go for some of the leadership positions. But I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And go.
That's true.
There's a really good book written by a professor and psychiatrist, and her name's Allison Fergale. It's called Likeable Badass. It just came out this last year, and it's about how women can advocate and position themselves throughout their career in better ways to get the promotion or get the seat at the table. And it has a lot to do with what Cheryl's saying is about self-promotion that doesn't feel, braggy, but we're so humble. We don't want to like put our accomplishments out there. We don't want to talk about it, and finding, other sponsors who will talk about you in rooms that you're not in. And there's lots of strategy to how you show up in the workplace as a female and how you can do it in a way that is warm and authentic and genuine to who you are, but still assertive and similar to how a man shows up, right? He's very much owning the space that he occupies. And women can struggle with that a little bit, even in a totally female-dominated industry, right? So there's some learnings from that book that are really interesting. But the biggest piece is talk about yourself, self-promote, do it in ways that are contrary to how we've been brought up as women to not sort of be, brash and boastful. But there is a lot that you can do for your own career by just self-advocating, right? And talking about your accomplishments and talking about things that you've accomplished. Like when any man does it, you're just like, yeah, that's just normal. But And women are hardest on each other, right? Like the criticism and the judgment that we sometimes see from each other is like something we all have to deal with. But helping and supporting each other, and to Cheryl's point, like great work by folks like you and Smart Meetings is a great pillar in our industry in terms of highlighting the accomplishments of women. But
yeah, there's always room to grow even more.
Yeah, I think there's some organizations that I was very fortunate in a junior management role, probably when I was in my mid-20s, working for Hilton, and they actually put on an assertiveness at work course for their female junior managers, which I was able to attend. And I mean, it taught me a lot. And it's things that I still use today. But again, our industry organizations, you can go in and be a president of MPI chapter or president of a site chapter, and you can practice those skills in what is at the end of the day a safer space, because it's people within our industry, it's people we know. And then brag about it, right? When you're going on, well, I've been president of MPI chapter. That is something that's worth bragging about. You've done that leadership role and use that. So you only get out of it what you put into it, but that's a great way to practice some of those skills and get you to the next level in a leadership role in our industry.
I think this is actually a really good time to bring up the topic of imposter syndrome. When Anne, you're saying, like advocate for yourself and things like that. I think the most simple way to put it is that I feel really uncomfortable and weird when I do. Like, how do we kind of get over that hump of discomfort when we try to advocate for ourselves or even brag about ourselves? And we can develop the skills to do so in a way that's humble and respectful still. But it's a learning process to figure out how exactly to do that and to push yourself to just step up and start doing it, right?
Yeah. Imposter syndrome is really interesting because we all still feel it. I live it, right? Like I produced an event last year where I'm like, well, I don't actually know if I can do this or know how to do it exactly. But I think, if you can reframe imposter syndrome as just like you really give a shit about what you're doing and you care a lot. And that's why I'm afraid of failing or letting people down or not being enough. It sort of like is a more positive spin on the whole imposter thing and sort of motivates you to, hone your craft, get better at it, deliver the work, and then brag about it, right? Like it.
Yeah.
I think events are such an interesting world where you have that tangible proof of what you have just built and your skills and what you've just done. Mm-hmm. And then talk about it. Talk about what you've accomplished and be open about, along the process, this is how I felt about it. And this was the imposter syndrome that I had. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest thing is knowing that everyone experiences that. Some people just maybe use it as fuel to get the thing done versus letting it cripple you. And if you can think of imposter syndrome as just, I really care about this and I'm outside my comfort zone and I'm growing and I'm learning, and that's okay to be a beginner at something, that is less daunting than just thinking I can't do this or I don't have the skills. And that's something I think women or men, like it can be just a matter of changing your self-talk, right?
I think back to the great keynote at the Smart Women's event last year with Judy Holler, with her book, Fear is Your Homeboy, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, we need to fear less, not be fearless, but fear less. She's got a great book about, how she started doing improv and really being in your comfortable zone to be able to move forward. And being in our comfort zone isn't going to make us move forward. We need to get out of that in order to progress. But I agree. I mean, when I was starting my own business, I'm like, who am I to start a business? I didn't know what I was doing. I was literally Googling starting a business in California. Seriously, I was. But there are great resources. Things like the SBA, the Small Business Administration, was a great resource. And then you just reach out to other people and say, hey, what did you do about this? How did you do about that? But absolutely, I was there. I was like, I never thought I'd be running my own business, but really glad I am. And that's just part of the evolution, I think, in our industry as well. Would I have wanted to do it 10 years beforehand? No. I didn't think I had the confidence or the contacts at those stages, but it becomes a stage where it makes sense. We need to be uncomfortable sometimes.
That note, what's something that you both have experienced in your life to kind of get to where you are, that was like the biggest hill you had to climb to like really attain what you wanted in this industry?
That takes a little thought.
The evolution of my company and into the model that it is now comes from having actually failed miserably at living what we talk about now, which is like balance and boundaries and getting support and getting help. And part of why I built that is because when I had a 5-week-old baby, I had to take her to Indianapolis to run a conference, right? And I'll caveat that in Canada, normally you get like a year's worth of maternity leave. Like I know that's like pretty normal timelines for the States, but for up here, it's not. And so that was hard. Like feeling like I didn't have any support and feeling like I had to do it by myself with my 5-week-old in tow. Most of the moments that are pivotal in my career oftentimes come from a sort of rock bottom point where you're like, I don't think that this is the right way to do this, or there has to be a better way to do this, or there has to be a different way, a healthier way. Then taking that fear and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to then go and do something about it rather than just, woe is me. Those, if I could pinpoint the pivotal moments of my career, it always is sort of triggered by something like that. So I think those moments that seem really daunting are the ones that if you let them can really push you to that next level.
I'm curious, like in that situation or in others, what changed? How did that teach you to sort of pivot in your career and like the way that you do and interact with your work?
When you're just like past the point of exhaustion and you see what your sacrifices have done to your child and your family. And then it happened again all to us during COVID, turned on a light bulb. Like there has to be a better way to produce events where you don't have to like kill yourself to do it. And we don't celebrate the like hustle, and don't commend me for taking my 5-week-old to an event and be like, you're such a hero for doing that. Be like, are you freaking crazy? Like, no one will die if you just stay at home with your child where you should be, right? But that is a real shift in our industry of like not celebrating that kind of martyr hustle culture. But yeah, I think it just, when you push your body to the limits of what it can do physically, emotionally, you can either crumble and die, which I did for a little while after that event, and then think about, well, there must be a better way to do this. That's kind of how it shifts. It honestly does feel like having to hit rock bottom a little bit.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I think you're speaking to an important point too, is like we kind of have this precedent, I guess, that like women in doing so, like taking their 5-week-old to a conference, are martyrs. And, that narrative is shifting slowly. But I mean, like women tend to be expected to like be all the things, like especially as like women have entered like the career field, and like 100 years ago, that wasn't really the case. It wasn't common for a woman to have a career. But like now, if a woman wants to have a career and be a mother and be a wife and a friend and a daughter and a sister or whatever, like there are so many hats. And how can you keep it all going if you don't give yourself time to rest and heal and recover?
Some of the conferences are doing a great job of incorporating the wellness into the event, I think, and making sure when we are on the road that there is more opportunity to maybe do yoga or do some meditation. And I think that's really important. And I was talking to somebody at site last week, week 4, whenever we were there, and saying that, you shouldn't feel compelled to be at everything. That if you need some downtime because that's what you need in your day, that's fine, right? But there is an expectation you're going to be at everything. And sometimes for a lot of people, that's overwhelming. And we shouldn't be going to an event to be overwhelmed. We choose to be there a lot of the time, but you have to come out of it. And a lot of the time, you need time to assimilate the information you're taking in as well. And to be able to learn from that. You do get to a stage where it's information overload, and it's okay to step back and go, okay, I just want to take that in.
Site was also like, I was like, I want to go to all the different things, but I am so sleepy at the same time.
Right.
Like, when am I going to take a nap?
I think like, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like we've heard us said it again and again, you cannot be what you need to be in anything if you don't give yourself time to heal. So you probably are not going to achieve this high level of career success and satisfaction if you don't allow yourself to have balance in your life.
And whether that's, when we're somewhere like Tulum, just being able to sit on the balcony for a few minutes and just
literally
chill.
2 minutes.
Literally, right? 2 minutes. Because that's all we had. I mean, what I did was, I didn't have a balcony. I had a view of the cart path. But I actually went to where the palapa was, where they had the bar. I took my laptop there. I sat and worked with a beautiful ocean view with the breeze. breeze, because that's what I needed. I needed to be outside. I needed some fresh air. I needed to just enjoy that. But I was working at the same time.
Right.
So sometimes it's just putting yourself in the right environment and taking yourself out the one you're in and putting yourself in the right environment for you to be able to do what you need to do.
That's a good point.
Yeah, self-care is very important in that respect, especially when you're traveling and working at the same time. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
On another end of this question, what are some of the career achievements that you each are both most proud of? And may I not so subtly mention being winners of a certain award called Smart Women in Meetings?
Well, of course, that would come up first. The Smart Women's, of course, Entrepreneur of the Year is got to be at the top. Yeah, that's very humbling, because when you run your own business, there's nobody patting you on the back saying, great job. Right. You might be in a sales team or in a company where you're getting recognition, but when it's your business, you don't get that. Right. So it was very fulfilling. I think a couple of mine would be chairing the Site International Conference was quite an achievement, and actually being on the Site International Board of Directors for 3 years as well. So I would say those were probably, and then launching my business. That I didn't even know that's something I would be doing, but actually setting it up and launching it was an achievement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, back to my comment about most of the pivotal moments in my career were preceded by the lowest ones. Is how I actually met JT and the team at Smart Meetings was during the pandemic, like right when the pandemic started, 5 years-ish ago today. We were right on the cusp of GMID, right? And we had to cancel GMID. I put out a tweet because I was just like in misery, and I was like putting my thoughts into the universe. And it was like, maybe we should organize a massive virtual event and try to break a world record. And it picked up quite a bit of steam, and we didn't quite break the record, but on GMID in 2020, we brought together like 50 event profs that organized this. And then like 11,000 people signed into the event online.
Wow.
And that eventually turned into how I got into event technology, where I spent a couple of years. And so it's those moments where you just feel like, everything's really shitty and everything's broken, and I'm sort of like down in the dumps. Take some time to like wallow in it. But then if you think about like, what can I do to contribute to the solution of this? What can I build? What can I start? What can I volunteer for? Where can I give my time? Those things are what have always created big moments in my career. And so that was one of them. The second one being, you guys all recently knew that like last year, I put my business model to the test, where we say that if one event planner has to step out because of life, the rest of them can step in and support them. And that's exactly what happened last year, right? So it's not a big award, and it's not like a fancy thing that got published anywhere, but the ability for me to exit out of my business for like 6 months to deal with the passing of my mom, that I couldn't have done 6 years ago. I couldn't have done that in my old business model. For me to be able to do that, to just prove out this business model personally was quite an accomplishment for me, because I was that martyr. I was like that hustle. Like, of course, I'm going to bring my baby. Of course, I'm going to like work myself to death and try to power through whatever was going on through life. But as I got older and wiser, maybe the ability for my business to support that was really monumental to me.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. I mean, like, that's honestly the way that it should be. And you have every right, and come back to work when you are ready. Right. We will have a space for you. Like, that's just, it's so human. It's so empathetic. And like, I think it's a really beautiful way for the world to operate. And I really, really hope that we see more of that in the coming years.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In a utopia.
I mean, I think we are moving in that direction.
I hope so. And that's just what Anne was saying. I mean, I started my business after getting laid off the sales job when I was with Robertson, and just spoke to a few friends, and they were like, well, why don't you just put a collection together and sell that? And I'm like, well, I guess I could. And that's how my business started. And just, people knew I was doing that, and somebody connected me with somebody else. And before I knew it, I had like 5 or 6 clients that I was representing, and but literally I had at that time, I then had a fire in my belly in terms of like, I'm going to make this happen, and I'm going to make this work.
Right.
And I think I set it all up in something like 9 weeks. And a friend of mine, it said it took me 9 months to do mine. But once you get going and it's what you want to do, it's surprising what you can make happen.
Yeah. Once that safety net is gone. Yeah.
Absolutely.
9 weeks?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 9 weeks.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very
Did you
admirable.
sleep during those 9 weeks?
I did, but I actually did a lot of meditation because I had so much going on in my head that it was stopping me sleeping. So I had to meditate to kind of clear my brain. Otherwise, I wasn't going to sleep because there's just so much going on.
Wow, crazy.
Express business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing that's really clear throughout this discussion is like there is no clear path.
No.
There is no clear path. There is no straight line. You know, like it is rocky mountains and
Make your
valleys
own
and
path,
lakes
people.
and rivers. Yeah.
I think in this industry generally, I think you need to be pretty resilient. I mean, and probably when you look at your team, it's, you have to be resilient. People that run events, I mean, it never goes the way you expect it to. There's always going to be something. And you have to be able to react to it and get through it and keep a smile on your face and just keep going. So I think resilience is probably one of the top life skills you need in our industry.
Yeah. Definitely.
I like what you said earlier. You had a fire in your belly, and it reminds me of what Anne was saying earlier, just about like being truly passionate about what you're doing, being able to be fired up and excited. And like, that's, how you can overcome things like imposter syndrome and self-doubt is like leaning into that inspiration within yourself.
Yeah. And I think at that stage, that's when you know it's right? And you know it's going to happen. When you have that excitement and passion about it, you make it happen. So that's when you know you're on the right path.
Sarah, do you have any other questions that we...
I don't.
Okay. Do you want to ask our last, that's not even a word, our last question for the episode?
For anyone listening, it is Monday, folks, at the time we are recording this. I don't know if it's, hopefully it's Thursday when you're listening because we release first Thursdays of every month, just so you know. But this is being recorded on a Monday. However, the energy in this little virtual room has been through the roof. Thank you guys so much.
This was really fun.
Here.
I enjoyed this a lot.
I think this has been a really beautiful, dynamic conversation. So thank you. But we have one more question for you. And that is, what is in your toolbox? What is the number one thing you want the listeners to walk away from this episode with?
I'm going to say life's too short to not enjoy what you're doing. Find a career path that you're passionate about where it doesn't actually feel like you're working, that you enjoy it so much. And in this industry, it's a very fine line between where our work stops and our play starts, because we work a lot of weekends and evenings. And if we didn't love what we did, it would be tough. Like Anne said, it's tough to get that balance sometimes. So follow a path that brings you passion.
I think Cherryl alluded to this, but I think there's no time that's too early for you to start investing in building your community and your network. And every success or new direction my career has ever taken has been because somebody has helped me or reached out, opened a door. And I think that comes from consistent effort to invest in your network. So help connect other people, meet people, give back to the community, volunteer for MPI. I was on our MPI board for 8 years. The sooner you can sort of give to the industry, the more it will give back to you in, 10,000 folds. So it's not a specific tool, but your network will become your greatest asset as you progress through this industry. Because we don't sell anything that's like physically tangible, right? Like we don't have a product, we don't build a thing. We build these experiences that require people to come together to deliver them. And that network of yours will be the most important thing you leave this industry with. So if you haven't, start investing in it. When you need that favor, it's really nice if you've built up some good, credit with someone versus just asking them for something that you need.
Right.
So anything that you can do in your time to give back to the community and the industry, it'll give back to you, 1,000 times over.
Very well put.
I totally agree.
Thank you.
I would not have my business without the network I've created over the years. And I think particularly sometimes as a junior salesperson, maybe in a hotel or something, you look at who are the meeting planners, who are the planners that I need to speak to, who are the clients. But don't forget the suppliers, because they can be your biggest advocates in referring business. You don't know where they're going to go. They might go from a supplier to a buyer side. build that
Right.
network, and from both sides, because at the end of the day, you don't know where your career is going to go, and your LinkedIn connections at the end of the day are very valuable to help you throughout your career. So make sure you stay in touch with those people. I mean, these days with people moving around, LinkedIn I think is so vital because at least you can keep up to date with people.
Right.
But your network is so valuable.
Well, Sarah, that was always a pleasure. We talk to so many different people all the time and it's interesting that we talk to people who have, won awards from us because it's kind of like a nice little, where are they now moment.
It is.
Where are you now in the history of smart meetings?
Yeah. I think it's an amazing lesson that, no matter where you are in your career, you have so much that you can accomplish. You have so much to celebrate. And, it really is, a career is completely a journey. And to see these two talk about it so passionately and with so much just interest in what they do, it really is inspiring. And it makes me really happy to see that there are people like this in the world doing this work and who have gone so far and accomplished so much and also truly believe in themselves.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, you gotta have the oomph to do it, because no one's gonna help you. Yes, with you, but you have to want it enough to go after it, and these women really went after it. So, props.
Congratulations to all of the Smart Women winners this year. Happy Smart Women season. We hope that you enjoy the Smart Women Summit, whether you're listening to this episode before or after. Enjoy it. Celebrate yourself. Be proud.
Yay! Go Smart Women!
You've been listening to Smart Start Radio, a Smart Meetings production. Interested in being our next guest? Connect with us at editor@smartmeetings.com.